Oh, okay, so you've already done it once. Come on now, this is just a run back, right? Before we hop into this review of chapter 57 of Record of Ragnarok, please do me a favor, leave your own thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below, leave a like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to hit the little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Now, let's get into it. What's up guys, I got a pencil here, and here we are to chapter 57 of Record of Ragnarok, which is known as Chiyu, aka his weapon, but also a god he killed one time. That's pretty like, is he gonna, like, if he's, this is gonna be weird, right? But like, if he gets to Hades, right, is he gonna make him his new weapon? Nah, I'm kidding. But let's hop right on into it. So we get to see, we open up, and we actually cut away from the fight that we were having last time. Like, notably, we end last chapter with Huang. I'm just gonna say Huang. I'm not gonna try and Kinshi Huang, but Huang, he was essentially saying like, yo, let's square up, let's box right now. There can only be one king, this one is definitely going to be your boy. But then we cut straight into his backstory, and we get to see that there was a being that appeared in multiple forms across history, and that was Chiyo, or Chiyu. I'm not sure if it's Chiyu or Chiyo. It's spelled U, but I'm sorry about my pronunciation, but I'm going to say Chiyo. So Chiyo, he appeared over multiple different incarnations. Once he was a bull man, and then he was this weird building kaiju thing, got battle bronze in head and iron bow, which consumes metals and stone. Like, man was immense. I was trying to say menace and monster at the same time. He was a monstrous menace, essentially. And we get to see that the people in Key specifically reviewed him. I'm reviewing them. Hopefully they weren't reviewing him, but revered him as like this god of war. Like, he was this higher level deity, a deity, you know, a god, if you will. We're in Record of Ragnarok. This isn't a new concept. But then we get to see that this being that supposedly invented bows, swords, crossbow, halberd, spear, armor, like all the main implements of war, he was worshipped for all that, and thus he was the chooser of all things. But then we get to see that this truth that they upheld wasn't really a real one. In fact, the real truth behind it was that this being that supposedly created all these things actually was a monster who chose the kings of China. As the chapter states, in China, kings did not become kings. They were permitted to be kings by the demon god Chiyo. And honestly, that's kind of hype. I like for such a short introduction, that's actually a really hype title, and it obviously sets precedence for our King of Kings, the king where it all began, in Huang, which I really like this chapter's intro. And admittedly, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Chiyo's design, though. Like, honestly, if you had stuck with either the bull man or even the bronze-headed monster, I feel like that would have been a better design. This weird thing, like, I don't know, his face is big, his hand is weird, metal gauntlet, his toes are too long, cut them things. Like, I don't know, he has a strange design, at least in that first panel. And we get to see that the person who brought about the unification of all China was going to go to Chiyo, or at least what was written down was that he embarked on the journey after the unification of all of China, and then he went to go get the approval essentially from Chiyo, right? Like, every single king had done this before, and even though he unified all of China, he was the ultimate king of all things. That didn't mean he didn't have to go through the whole process, right? Like, even though you got your driver's license, you do got to get renewed every couple years. Like, it's just standard protocol, right? Of course, this is very, very different, but still, it's the sense of you need to get something done before you can truly take the title. Bada bing, bada boom. That was what had to be done. And we get to see that this being, Chiyo, needed to have homage put on in order for him to choose you. And we see that this right that they had to approve a king, the right of Fen and Shang, or Fen and Shang, Feng and Shang, I'm not sure how many Chinese viewers I have, but anyone who actually speaks Chinese, I know you're just hating me right now. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce this. But we get to see, and no one actually really knew what took place on the summit until we get this flashback of Kinshi Huang, the only person who knew the truth of these. And he walked up and sees just this mountain of dead bodies, like skeletons, bones, skulls everywhere. And he notably is dragging something with him. And we get to see that this being, Chiyo, is currently munching on one of his victims, and it's seemingly it's the last one, unless he has a refrigerator in the back somewhere. I think he was on his last offering as he's currently munching through somebody, and we get to see that the king of Qin Shi Huang, the king of Qin, is stepping forward to the demon god Chiyo, who just finished off, his last sacrifice, and we see that Chiyo is actually kind of impressed, because obviously he notes the fact that, hey, you're the one that overwhelmed and conquered the 6 ruling states, or the 6 warring states, and you're pretty young. That's actually kind of impressive. However, as admirable as your courage is, considering you aren't, shaking in your boots before my very presence, as all previous kings did, you still need to offer up some things. You see all these skeletons around here? I need some more. You see, your boy, I don't really be eating the bones, right? I ain't rocking with marrow, so I'm gonna need some fresh meat. So I'm gonna need 10,000 of your people, and you're gonna need to kneel before me before I allow you to become an emperor amongst kings. You know what I'm saying? The king amongst kings, that's not an easy title. Maybe I would have offered, I maybe would have taken 1,000, maybe 2,000 in the past, but six foreign states, and you unified all of them? Nah, bro, I'm gonna need everything. And notably, I love how Huang's reaction is like at first he's disgusted, right? You see his look on his face, he's like, ew, because obviously he's like me. He looks at Chiyo, it's like, this dude's disgusting. Then he's like, sacrifice. Don't worry, my boy, I got you, my guy. And he offers up this thing he was dragging with him, and Chiyo's like, oh, sweet, my boy. Maybe you got some clout to your name. I mean, it's a little small, but I cop that. So Chiyo, after the thing gets unfurled, he grabs it, and Chiyo looks at it and is like, what the heck? Oh, I just noticed Chiyo has 4 arms. I didn't notice that before. Did he always have 4 arms? Did he always have 4? Or did he spawn one? I think he... Oh no, the arm was just behind his back. Okay, that's a cool design feature. And that explains the 4-arm bull man. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. I see that. But then we get to see, he catches it and he's like, yo, I know you got the blindfold over your eyes, my boy, but this is a figure of clay. I ain't trying to go on a vegan diet, my boy. I'm a whole carnivore. And notably, I love how Huang is like, the soil of Qin is most delicious. Eat to your heart's fill, my boy. And notably, he doesn't even really pick up any soil from the casket he threw. He just digs into the ground and just throws it. And I love how already Huang has just made, he's made the entire realm his, because he says this random mountain that he's on, which he just climbed to go talk to Chiyo, he literally says the soil of Qin. Qin Shi Huang. The soil of Qin is most delicious. Meaning he already views this part of China as his, even though it's Chiyo's territory. He hasn't even conquered this area yet, but he still says the soil of Qin. And that's just showing the sheer disrespect of this man. He's like, go ahead, have it. I don't really care. I'll rock with this. And notably, Chiyo actually does take a bite. Chiyo, let me level with you real quick. Why? I don't know. Why? Why would you actually, maybe you were just that hungry. I mean, obviously you just ran out, but you were just munching on something, my boy. You saw it was a figure of clay, and you still took a bite. Even if it was just to prove a point. Say my homeboy, say I asked my homeboy for a juicy, no, I'm not going to say quarter-pound steak, 2-pound T-bone steak, right? And he comes out, and he's like, I got you pre-prepared. And I'm like, okay, shoot, I dap him up. And he throws me a piece of celery. Celery's edible. Let's say he throws me a tree branch. I'm not going to bite the tree branch and spit it out to prove a point. I'm going to smack him on the face with the tree branch. What the heck? And all Chiyo does is just throw the body back down. And we get to see that Chiyo, he takes this as a form. Actually, now that I think about it, Chiyo kind of looks like Hajun. That's why I don't like his design. No, I'm kidding. But Chiyo actually has very similar design philosophies according to Hajun. He has the markings on the face, similar facial structure. Of course he's a bit bigger and 4-armed and a bit crazy, but still they kind of look a little bit similar. I wonder if that's just similar design philosophies. Some manga, if you notice, some manga will just draw characters that look the exact same. or just generally similar just because it's their art style, or if it's like actually purposeful. I doubt it's purposeful because like they're from two completely different mythoses, but it'd be cool if it was purposeful. But then we get to see that Chiyo's like, yeah, let me level with you real quick. Every previous king has submitted to me. You will never control China unless you're trying to be like them. And the first thing Huang says is like, yo, no offense, my boy, but I disapprove. And it's for like, I mean, to be fair, it's probably not just for the reason he says, but like, he just witnessed this dude eat somebody, and he's standing in a whole graveyard of dead corpses. And the reason he says that he's not going to bow his head is because your face, your voice, your attitude, your shoes, your fit, it's whack. Anything as hideous as you before I kneel, I'd rather die. Like, once again, this is larger than life person. Like, we haven't had, this is gonna sound weird, we haven't had a personality this openly bombastic and pretty much insane or disassociates since Zeus. Like, we haven't had this like alpha, like top of the line energy. Like, and no, I love Poseidon, right? But he didn't necessarily, he gave off like, oh, I'm superior than you. But no, like this dude, Huang, just gives you the vibes that he would walk into an area, look at something he doesn't like on the wall, see a wallpaper, tear it down, and be like, yo, get a new one, and then walk out. Like, he wouldn't even, he'd come into your establishment, tear it apart, tell you what to fix, and then leave. Like, he wouldn't even buy anything. He'd just tear the place up, and you couldn't even call the cops on him because he'd already be down the street. Like, you'd just be in shock. And I love that. Like, this larger than life personality is amazing. I love how the mangaka's writing. Please don't lose. Like, I love Hades, right? Hades is my boy. Come on now. Kill him though. No, but seriously, like, I really want Kin to win. Like, I'm super excited to see this man. And we get to see that Chiyo is kind of like shocked. He's like, wait, you've been being wobbly. Don't you understand? You talking to a deity right now. And I love how Huang, just once again, that larger life man is like, you call yourself a deity before me. Come on now, let me tell you something, you man-eating beast. You stank-toed, stank-breath, dumb bubblegum looking monster. All the kings before me were not kings. And I'm about to take your head and take your whack fit and become the king who started it all. And I love how, like, Chiyo just explodes with, like, even more arms. Like, 1, 2, 3, 6 arms. Feet blown up. I think he even gets bigger. His horns explode, and we get this amazing, like, little mini display of Huang versus Chiyo. And their death match continued for 6 whole days. That's a stamina feat right there. And bada bing, bada boom, the man-eating beast was slain. And yeah, he has the same tattoos as Junto. But then we get to see, with him being slain, like, it wasn't an easy fight. Like, Huang is like stripped down just to his basics, and notably his eyes we don't get to see. They're covered, even though it seems like his headband is gone. And he's happy that well, not necessarily. He's happy that he won, obviously. But the narrator says at that moment, the history of China passed into the hands of man, and they managed to take control, and that is the end, as Huang took the title of King Shi Huang, and bada bing, bada boom, everything was done. The Rite of Fang was performed, and he ruled China. And then we cut back to the main fight. I know it took way too long on that backstory, but I think it was a really cool backstory that did a good job of building a Chiyo, and on top of that, did a really good job of just, once again, showing off this amazing larger than life personality that Huang has, and showing how much of a dynamic character he is, and how wild this man is. This man's a menace. But then we get to see that Hades and like Gear and me and everyone else is like, whoa, that boy saying Hades zooming, gone, flying. That man's on the other side of the arena. Bada bing, bada boom. Crazy. And like, here's the thing, right? We get to see that he apparently, Huang didn't even have like a solid fighting technique. Maybe he did, because notably Brunhild says mastered, which implies that maybe he had them before, but he didn't necessarily just have a strict definition to them, or like a pure, honest like mastery of the techniques. But we get to see that Brunhild says in the battle with Chiyo, Huang mastered the ultimate martial art derived from 5 different fighting styles of sword, halberd, crossbow, armor, and spear, which is the 5 things that Shio was supposedly the god of, which is interesting. And the thing is, I'm not sure if he named it Shio in honor of a great battle he had, or just in mockery. Like, you're simply a piece of my moveset. The entire history behind you, all the people you killed, are nothing to me. You're just a piece of my ever-evolving existence. I feel like it's a mix of both, but I feel like it's definitely towards the latter. Just considering how like, confident and swagalicious, let me just say it, this Huang is. And there, half y'all unsubscribe. But there we go. We get to see that apparently this is the same martial art that Huang used against Ares. I thought, no offense to Ares, but I just thought he just got bodied by some general stuff. But okay, Ares actually required some next level stuff. He actually required Huang to pull out his technique and didn't just get bodied. It's a little bit of respect on your name, Ares. A little bit of respect on your name. And then we get to see that apparently the reason that this wasn't just like Huang slamming Ares against the ground that made his nose bleed, but it was actually something along the lines of absorbing the force, the energy of Hades' attack, deflecting it, circling it around him, and then sending it back to him. I think this is similar to, don't quote me on this, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I know you're supposed to use like the strength of your opponent against you, but of course I feel like these two are not very much connected, but I think it's a very cool thing. Hold on, let me just double check. Stop typing on your keyboard. Stop typing on your keyboard. Stop typing. It's judo. I know it's judo. Stop typing on. I already hear y'all clickety clacking down there. I'm sorry. That's why I googled it, because I felt I was wrong. I had to double check myself. So it's not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's judo, or at least that's the one I was mainly thinking of. They're using your opponent's weight and force against them, and we see that Huang did just that. He literally redirected all of Hades' energy and just said woo and sent it right back at him. And notably, even Hermes, like, once again, like, the thing, I love Hermes because he's like a demon, obviously, but in the same way, like, I'm wondering how much of his estimations involve himself, because I still do think Hermes is like a sleeper. Like, we have Nostradamus on the human side as like our Joker or a wild card, but not gonna lie, I know he's not even slated to fight, but I feel like Hermes is the Joker / the wild card of the gods. This man, he's different. He's about that action. I know it. So I wonder when he says, that's easy to say, but I don't know of any human, no, any god even, who could pull off such a feat against Hades. Now, I'm not sure if he's like talking about the general feat of simply absorbing and redirecting the energy, or just the like taking an attack from Hades. Because if it's taking an attack from Hades at all, we saw Zeus fight, right? Like that was a thing we all witnessed. We know with Zeus we know Hermes saw Zeus in full accurate detail, so he knows Zeus's full strength. So does that mean Hades greater than Zeus? We saw Shiva use his dance that literally destroys the world. Does that mean Hades' strikes are greater than that? Like, where does Hades scale? That's the thing. Like, without like these big bombastic statements that we were getting a lot early on in the series, like, oh, the world was going to be destroyed, or he witnessed the Big Bang itself. Like, we don't necessarily have like much to interlock and interscale these different deities. But if Hades stands at the pinnacle through Hermes' statement right here, that's kind of wild. And notably, while Hades, as Ares obviously points out, just took his own sheer power, Homeboy kind of ate that. Like not gonna lie, sure, he's bleeding and he has like a little mini hole in his chest that I didn't bother drawing, but he's like coughing up a little bit, but he actually took his own power pretty well. And of course, like, you know, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, so you should already be able to take whatever force you're dishing out. But he kind of took, that's like stabbing. I mean, to be fair, he didn't take his own spear directly at him, but I don't know, Huang's fingers are kind of pointy, so like he didn't take any like sharp piercing damage. But to be able to like take one of your, think of like you cloning yourself and then punching yourself in the face and or chest, or kicking yourself in the face and or chest, like that's pretty metal for you to just be able to take that, cough a little bit, and stand right up. And I love how Huang is like, still willing to fight, Lord of the Netherworld? Because it literally shows off that Huang's like, yo, I reflected one of your strongest attacks. You ain't like that, my boy. Maybe you want to quit this right now. And I love how Hades kind of ignores the jab and is like, Qin Shi Huang, was it? Tell me one thing. What in your eyes makes a king? And it's interesting. I wonder what like provoked Hades to ask that. I know it was the king of the Netherworld. So he's sort of responding to the jab. His answer to the jab of like, are you still willing to fight, is him standing up. But his question of what makes a king is the fact that he was just referred to as king of the Netherworld, and Hades knows that Huang is a king amongst himself. So he asks his fellow leader, his fellow ruler, like, what makes a king? And I love how Huang's answer is one that seems so confident, so self-evident, and so true to himself as an individual, one who never doubts, one who never yields, never relies, and always stands as the leader of his people. That is what makes a king. And I love how Hades has this moment of like, it's shock, right? Because I guess in Hades' mind, right, as cool as he was, he still hasn't taken that human juice yet, right? Like he hasn't met a human that he can truly view as an equal. So he's sort of still lagging behind in the sense that, you know, humans are cool and all, but they aren't like that. Like they aren't that guy, pal. Like, they aren't that guy. But in this moment, he has this revelation with Huang, like, huh. And notably, I can't do a deep bellowing laugh like Hades without like blowing your ears out, and probably her blowing my ears out. Because fun fact, I do listen to my recordings to make sure I don't mess up too badly, even though I do mess up a lot. But Hades was on this big, just whole laughing fit. And notably, once again, Hermes, like, he be shaking me up with his statements. Like, I'd be taking Hermes as, like, the de facto narrator. Like, we have the actual narrator, and then we have Hermes, who's, like, the secondary narrator. Like, notably, when Ares says, huh, what booming laughs? I've never seen this from Hades before. I'm like, yeah, whatever, Ares. You haven't seen your own toes before. Like, I don't want to insult Ares too badly. But then Hermes says, me neither. And I'm like, whoa, Hermes, what do you mean you've never seen this booming laughs from Hades? And then we get to see that Huang, I'm not sure if this is like a moment of awkwardness or just like true camaraderie between twin kings. Like, Huang burst into laughter himself. And it goes into this, I don't know, just this like, it's a weird moment that has like the gods and man themselves both shaking in confusion, and even Heimdall's shocked. But like, I don't know, it's weird to say it's wholesome. Like, these two supremely powerful beings, these rulers of these vast, insanely large realms filled with people, are just laughing together. And while one is laughing for a reason they know internally, the other is laughing just because they find the laughter of the other funny. I don't know. It's like, have you ever hung out with your friends and like one of them's on their phone and they start laughing, but they have like this crazy infectious / hilariously stupid laugh, and you just start laughing with them, and it's just this weird moment where like you're just straight up laughing, and then you like, there's no context to why you yourself are laughing, but you're laughing with your friend, and once they finally calm down and everyone calms down, you ask them the same awkward question Huang has to ask, like, yeah, so what'd you find so funny? Like, you just, like, you didn't get it at first, but you were just laughing along with them. And then Hades was like, yeah, not gonna lie, you remind me of someone. I ain't gonna cap, bro. And Huang's like, wait, like, but like who though? And Hades just goes on to say, like, huh. And interestingly enough, like, I guess Hades is like pseudo being a narrator, because he has like the narrator text boxes, but this obviously is just him speaking. And we get to see he's hyping up. He was more noble than any other deity, more steadfast than any other, the most deity, most worthy of the title of king. I believe my younger brother, Poseidon, king of the seas, was just that guy. And Poseidon, cool character. Is he even in my top 5 gods? Zeus, Buddha, Shiva. I really like. Actually, yeah, he's still there. By a hair, though. By a hair. Yeah, I don't like. I as much as I feel bad for him, I don't like him that much. Yeah, Never mind, Poseidon's still, so he's top tier. He is top tier. I'll give him that. But like, I mean, like, that's the thing, right? I guess you need the security and confidence. So, like, Poseidon didn't necessarily give off kingly vibes. He gave off like dictator vibes. Like, to me, a good king is someone who is all the things that Hwang mentioned, and something that, so like some aspects of what Poseidon mentioned. But at the same time, like, Poseidon just seemed like someone who didn't respect anybody, and thus wouldn't respect his own people. Like, he didn't seem like he'd be a functional king. I'm not gonna lie. He seemed like he'd be a good like power forward. Like, he'd be a good warrior, but he didn't seem like he'd be a great king. But Hades is just he's just saying Poseidon was just that guy. And you know what? I respect Hades, and we get to see that Hades, he on his brother's name. And as his elder brother, and as king of the Netherworld, he's not going to give in to a mere king of men. And the writing in the record of Ragnarok, it just be hitting sometimes, right? Like, there's something about the way, like, and I don't necessarily watch anime. I say it all the time, but there are times, like, this is a line I want to hear how the English, because I don't understand Japanese, and I'm never gonna praise Japanese voice acting because I have no context with the words they're saying. I'll give credit if there's energy and emotion behind it, but I won't be able to understand it. But I really want to hear who the English voice actor of Hades is and how he delivers this line, because, like, for me, and notably, like, I want to be a voice actor, but I don't voice act typically, but like, if I were to do this line, I'd be like, as his elder brother, I shan't give in to a mere king of men. Like, I would put such emphasis on mere and men, because it just shows, like, it shows what Hades is all about, right? Like, he's a nicer, more open dude than his younger brother, but at the same time, there's still some of that, like, godly, kingly arrogance that radiates throughout him, and I really would love to see his voice actor capture that. And notably, we see Hades starts to hold his spear by, like, the head of it, like right beneath the head of the spear. And I'm kind of confused. Like, everyone's a little bit confused. Like, Brunhild doesn't seem to know what's going on. Gear is a bit worried. Hermes, he's a little bit shaken. Ares is confused. Even, like, the other kings of China are a bit confused. And Hwang is like, I don't know why you're doing that. I kind of a trait though, but I'm gonna take my stance real quick. Like he's getting into defensive position. He's kind of like, I'm not like, what are you doing like that? Because I guess even he's like, notably, I believe spear is spear in his arsenal. Yeah, spear is in his arsenal. So he's probably never even, so he has a mastery of the spear, since he does have mastery of his martial arts. But I guess he's never seen a spear held like that. So he takes the stance, and Hades just lets out this breath. And then he zooms in. And notably, we get to see that this attack that was released from an unusual stance is apparently only possible because Hades has, like, his spear is so sturdy. It's a locked thing, right? Like, it won't shake, it won't crumble. It's a solid weapon. So he has the lack of the base Mjolnir problem that Thor had. Like, Hades has such overwhelming strength, but he doesn't have to worry about his weapon breaking. Like, Lubu had to worry about his weapon snapping every single time until he was able to appropriately split the sky. Thor had to make sure he didn't swing around Mjolnir too hard before it woke up, or else it would shatter and destroy itself. Meanwhile, Hades, apparently his spear is so sturdy, it's so sturdy with it, that regardless of how hard he swings it, he has absolutely the utmost confidence in the fact that it will not shatter. And that's pretty darn amazing, considering how hyped his strength is supposed to be. And then we get to see that Hades, and I love, like, once again, the mangaka is just amazing at just drawing detail. Like, you see every single indent and shadow and sinew of muscle on Hades' hand as it just grips and the spear begins to slide down, because it was not a thrust, but the proper way of fighting with the spear. And in this moment, like, I love how dynamic this feels. Like, Hades stomps his foot down, the spear essentially becomes this beam of energy, and apparently with all his might, the king of the Netherworld swung and delivered a crushing downward swing. And it is called Smasher of Earth, Persephone Titan. Why can't we see Persephone? Is Persephone not a like? I hope she's not dead. Like, what is Hades' backstory in this? Because he's king of the Netherworld, which includes all the mythologies apparently, which is way different from what his role was originally. And I don't know, like the way that all the attacks are just like named for her. I'm like, is she dead, or does he just love his wife that much? Like he's just like, hey, honey, came with a new attack named with my spear. Get named after you. I'm going to put different prefix after it or different suffix after it. And I love how the spear, like, it just seems so large next to Huang. And Huang goes to switch rather than going from like the more flowing stance, he goes to the armor phase. Chiyo, armor form, heavenly hand of defense. And notably, Brunhild is looking a little bit worried. And Gear and Ares both seem to be confident that the move is going to be redirected, but Hermes, and notably Brunhild likely, is like, actually, probably not. Because it seems like the force behind Hades, like, once again, this just comes to the fact, like, this is reverting back to something we learned all the way back in, like, round 1. For some reason, the deities just seem to be like, well, not for some reason, because they're deities, but the gods are not only built better than humans in terms of simply their biological structure. They have more biological integrity than humans do, regardless of how much we train. But on top of that, they're just able to exude just so much force that even the techniques that have slain gods in the past can be surpassed by the raw strength of someone with enough power like Hades. Because not only does Hades go with that furious downward swing, but he actually lifts his foot, re-stomps it, like re-locks back in, and slams his left hand down on top of the spear because he's so confident in it. And Huang, like, he's blocking it, right? Like, he has like the aura of blocking around him, but just the force that Hades exerts just actually overwhelms it. Even Huang's like, what? Like, he wasn't expecting that. And notably, upon first reading, I thought Hades just like pushed the spear down. Like, he was like, oh, the first hit didn't do enough, hold on, let me take my other hand and just, but no, he actually takes a grip of it and drags it back. Like, I by doing that, it's a great way to like work around the reflecting thing, because notably what Huang reflected last time was a thrust. And with a thrust, like, sure, you may pull back after you're done with the thrust, but while you're full in motion, all the force is essentially going forward. Thusly, someone, as long as they're able to catch the force and like redirect it, you can throw it out backwards. But if part of your attack is pulling backwards, and that essentially means that your opponent can't really reflect what you're doing because they lost the energy. If they didn't reflect at the apex of the swing, like if Huang had reflected right when the spear first clashed down, then I think he would have been fine. He literally could have just been like, or if he couldn't deflect it back at Hades, he could have just deflected it away. Like, he could have just bop and bam, like threw it back up into the air. But notably, by dragging the spear down, not only does it become too much for him to deflect, as Ares says, but I think it actually just breaks the way the redirection works, because you can't, is it weird to say you can't redirect something that, like, where would he redirect it to? Because the force is already going back towards Hades. It's not like he'd be able to redirect, like, circle it back around. Like, I hope you all get what I'm saying, right? Like, the force just isn't going in a direction that he could reasonably redeflect. And then we get to see that Hades declares himself as king of the Netherworld, as like every single vein on his body is just like exploding. His hand looks so massive. Like, this dude is just flexing. And yeah, I don't know what, like, I feel like he could have just stopped at "I'm king of the Netherworld." Like, he didn't have to scream Hades as he crushes Huang into the ground. And notably, like, this is just amazing, right? Because he slammed it down for the first, like, he did the whole swing where he slams it down, then he puts his other hand back and draws it back, so Huang cannot like redirect the force back at him because the force is already coming towards him. But in that motion, since he's drawing all the force of the attack right back to him, since he believes in the own sturdiness of his body, he's literally able to draw back, flip over Huang, and do all the damage while forcing him into the ground, causing everyone to be shot. Like, no, this is a weird group of spectators we got here, because we got Brunhild, who looks concerned, but is just like arms crossed, whatever. Gear is shook. I love how Poseidon servant is like, yes, he did it. And I love that this is just our main reaction group. I don't know why. Like, Sasaki, Isami Kondo, and Soji Okita, they're just always together. It makes sense. They're all swordsmen. But still, I love that they're our main reaction group from the humans. And we see that Hades, like, he finishes the flip, lands smooth, and has, like, relaxed all his muscles. Like, he essentially created a vacuum with how much air he was sucking in. And only Brunhild is sweating a bit. And we see that Hades made a very crucial mistake. He didn't confirm the kill. And I guess he didn't want to, but, like, if this truly is, because notably, we're accelerating pretty darn fast. Like, for both of the, well, to be fair, Hades to be using his full peak limit strength, well, to be fair, he could just be said, he could be lying, and this couldn't actually be his own. He could have a whole transformation under his belt for all we know. But in terms of, like, for him using this much power off rip, like, this fight is moving pretty darn fast. Like, how many more chapters is this going to be if Hades is already swinging around full strength? Where do we go from here? Is it just going to be Hwang catching up, essentially? Like, what's happening here? We get to see that Hwang, like, he's alive? Like, notably, Heimdall goes to say, he's dead, but Hwang coughs up blood. And even Hades is impressed, like, oh, you're still alive. And Hwang rises up. And you get to see that, I guess, like, it was just sheer blunt head trauma. Like, is it? No, it's not even head trauma. Like, I guess he threw up blood, and it managed to, like, soak through his front, because we don't necessarily see the wound that he's bleeding from. It's not like his eyes are bleeding or his forehead's bleeding, but we see that he sees that his blindfold is sticky with blood, so he removes it. And as Hades goes to taunt him, like, still willing to fight, King of Men? And I love how, like, that's his rebuttal, right? Like, all those pages ago, Hwang was like, still willing to fight, King of the Netherworld, and Hades finally responds with, still willing to fight, King of Men, because both have essentially shown their hands, right? Like, Hwang has shown that he can reflect what Hades can do, as long as it's within his, like, reasonable reflecting range, and obviously Hades has shown that his power is something beyond that Hwang can't just fully comprehend on the easy go-around. It's not something simple that he can do. And he says something in, Chinese that I don't understand. I think it's Chinese. Hold on. Alright, so I Google translated it, and it just said certain slow lift. Is that what that actually means? Like, all my Chinese people. or all my people who speak Chinese. Translate that for me, please. I'd appreciate that. The mangaka didn't do it. Help me. And thank you all in the last review who actually did correct me. Thank you all for that. I greatly appreciate that. I always appreciate the help with that, because I don't speak Chinese. But then we get to see that Hwang removes the headband or the blindfold, and notably every single being from China just bows their head. They do the pose, bow their head, and we see that while Hwang is damaged, he is ready for more battle. And we get to see, here's the 6 size. Gojo, is that you? Alright. All the memes to the side. Nah, but is that actually Gojo? No, I'm kidding. Okay, but seriously, I actually do really, really like this chapter. I'm not sure, like, as you can tell, I've been talking about it for a while. It's because I really, really enjoy it. I don't know. There's so many things. Like, this is a 10 out of 10 chapter for me for, like, the weirdest reasons, right? I think it's actually one of the best executed short backstories we had. Like, in my opinion, Shiva's backstory and the boy Sasaki's backstory, they're still my favorites. That's because they had meat to them. They had, like, time to, like, flesh out, tell a whole narrative. Like, they had time dedicated to them. So I can't knock their hustle. They're still doing great. But in terms of, like, short, quick back, like, how long was his backstory? It wasn't even really that long. Like, let's see. It was a solid, okay, never mind. It was about half a chapter. It was about, not even. It was about 18 pages of backstory. And, like, to be fair, that's a decent chunk. But for how much the backstory established, the cool design, even though I think it's whack, like, as much as I have many issues I have with Chio's design, like the multi-armed demon versus the king of that started it all, great concept. I love what it showed about both characters. I love how it displayed how determined and amazing that Hwang is. Like, that's amazing. I love the whole new dynamic shift of the fight. I love how this is essentially like almost a flip of the first chapter. Like, we see that, and we saw in the last chapter that Hwang is capable of fighting Hades, but then we get to see in this chapter that Hades is capable of fighting Hwang, and this sort of establishes that both are very powerful, very worthy combatants that are both equally deserving of their title as mightiest and also their title as king. And we also get more justification for Hades believing so much in Poseidon, and we get to see a parallel between Poseidon and Hwang, something that I really wasn't expecting. We get to see so much stuff in this chapter. Hades' fighting style being evolved more and more, like, this is just juicy. Like, I'm not sure, this is a meaty, hefty, thick, juicy, raw, beefy chapter, and I just love that. I don't know. It is a solid 50 pages, 51 pages of nothing but heat. And the art, I don't know. Like, occasionally there are like some misses in Record of Ragnarok. There's some times when I look at the art and I'm like, you know what? You could have drawn that better. Like, and this is coming from a dude that can't draw. Like level with you real quick. I can barely draw, especially to the level of some artists out there. So, like, me talking smack is me talking smack, but like relative to other Record of Ragnarok stuff, like there's some chapters where I'm like, oh, you could have done that better. Like there maybe if you done a step on that, maybe did another draft, you could have done that better. This art has no misses. Like, I'm straight scanning through the chapter right now. Like, other than Chiyo's design, which I think pales in comparison to his previous two designs, like there's everything in this chapter art-wise is a hit. The backstory is a hit. The continuation of a fight is a hit. Hades' ideology is a hit. Hwang's ideology is a hit. The interactions is a hit. Like, everything hits. This is a perfect chapter, like, straight up. And now this just makes me question, how's the fight gonna go from here? Because now we have both of our characters battle damage. Both of their characters are showing their hands, essentially. Hades showed off what should be a decent amount of the pinnacle of his strength. The chapter literally says, with all of his strength, every last drop of his energy, he delivered that crushing swing. So both have essentially showed what they can do now. But now both are unhinged, both are revealed. Like, Hades is showing that he's willing to use his full strength on Hwang, and meanwhile Hwang is now baring his eyes, which seems to be a very big thing. So I'm intrigued to see how this fight's gonna go. I wonder if we're actually gonna get like a blow for blow fight now, because right now, as much as I do like the fight, it is a very much take your turn kind of thing. We saw Hades go in, and to be fair, it's better because it's like the reflecting thing. It's much more of like a waving motion fight, which I enjoy. But this was definitely Hades' turn to just show off and flex in this chapter, even though we got Hwang's backstory in this chapter. So I'm intrigued. I'm wanting to see, are we now, with the whole script flipped, are we now going to jump into Hades' backstory? Are we going to see how he became so powerful, his life under Kronos? Are we going to see stuff like that in the opening of next chapter? Or are we going to continue the fight? If we continue the fight, are we going to be in like a brawl and hand-to-hand, you know, bob and weave, fisticuffs kind of battle? Or are we going to be in a, you know, top tier where it's still just trading blows back and forth, showing what each other can do? Or is Hwang finally going to switch into like an offensive mode? Is he going to keep using reflection? I don't know. I'm excited. And this is something like I felt excited for the Zero and Buddha fight, and I definitely felt excited for Shiva versus Raiden, as much as mid as I think that fight is. But I don't know, like, this is like raw, like, energy, excitement. I haven't felt this for a while, Ragnarok. Okay, I'm kind of excited, you know what I'm saying? Oh, on my Goku type beat. But yeah, honestly, super excited. But those are my thoughts on the chapter. Please put your thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Zago the Pencil, writing off.